the greatest detective novel in history, Sherlock Holmes.
The 5 Orange Pips.
It was in the year 1887, a time when London seemed to wrap itself in heavy clouds and restless winds. I remember it clearly because the whole evening felt unsettled, as if the weather itself carried a message. I was spending the night at Baker Street, visiting my old friend Sherlock Holmes. Outside, a wild storm howled through the city, rain beating against the windows, gusts of wind rattling the panes, and the streets below shining with lamplight reflected in puddles. The atmosphere was dark and heavy, filled with the sort of energy that seemed to put Holmes in his element. He was seated across from me in his armchair, a cigarette glowing faintly in his hand, his long, thin figure stretched lazily, but his sharp eyes flickering with restless thought. Holmes often thrived when the world outside seemed chaotic. "This weather," I remarked, glancing at the rain-smeared window, "is enough to keep anyone indoors for the night." Holmes gave a half-smile. "Yes, Watson, but storms like these often drive interesting cases straight to my door." He wasn't wrong. Just then, our landlady, Mrs. Hudson, came upstairs with the news that a visitor was waiting below. Despite the hour and the dreadful weather, someone had braved the storm to seek Holmes' help. The man who entered was young, about 22 at most, pale and anxious-looking, with eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. His clothes were damp from the rain, and he carried himself with nervous urgency, like someone being hunted by an invisible enemy. "This is Mr. John Openshaw," Holmes introduced him after the first greetings. "He has come to us in deep distress." I studied the young man as he sat, wringing his hands. His voice trembled as he began. "Mr. Holmes, I don't know where else to turn. My case isn't about stolen money or business troubles. It's about my family, a shadow that has hung over us for years. I've seen death follow it, and now I fear it's coming for me." Holmes leaned forward with interest, his sharp gaze locking on to the boy's pale face. "You have come to the right place, Mr. Openshaw. Please, start at the beginning. Tell me everything, and leave nothing out." The young man nodded, swallowing hard. The storm outside seemed to grow fiercer as he prepared to unfold his strange and fearful tale. "My grandfather," Openshaw began, "was a wealthy man who owned plantations in America, Florida, to be exact. He lived there until the Civil War, then returned to England, bringing his son Elias with him. My father, Elias's younger brother, remained in England to run the family estate in Sussex. Elias Openshaw was a fierce, moody man. He settled on the countryside estate, but he carried with him strange habits from America. He locked himself in his room for days, drank heavily, and never welcomed visitors. No one dared question him. Then, in 1885, something curious happened. One morning, a letter arrived from Pondicherry in India. Inside was only an envelope containing 5 little dried orange pips. At this, the young man's face turned pale. He paused, then continued. "My uncle Elias read it, went white as death, and screamed, 'K, K, K.' He staggered about the room in terror. No one could calm him. That night, he locked away papers and burned others in the fireplace. Within a week, he was dead, found drowned in the garden pond. The coroner called it suicide, but I knew It was no accident. The letter had killed him. Holmes's eyes narrowed, his interest sharpening. John went on. After his death, my father inherited the estate. He, too, received a letter with 5 orange pips, this time from Dundee. He laughed it off, saying it was a joke, but I begged him to take care. He ignored me. A week later, he was found dead, his head smashed in an accident, they said. But I knew it was the same curse. He shivered as he came to the present. And now, Mr. Holmes, 3 days ago, I received one. 5 orange pips, postmarked from East London. On the envelope were the same dreadful letters, K, K, K. And I fear my time has come. The storm rattled the windows as silence filled the room. Holmes sat motionless, his fingers steepled, his sharp eyes fixed on our guest. "You have indeed brought me a remarkable case, Mr. Openshaw. Let us reason it out. The initials KKK. You say your uncle cried those letters aloud. He was right. They stand for the Ku Klux Klan, a secret society born in America after the Civil War. I started at the name, for I had heard of that cruel brotherhood." Holmes continued. "The 5 orange pips are their warning, a death sentence unless the victim obeys. And the order was, put the papers on the sundial." John's face went pale. "The papers?" "He burned many, but some of my uncle's American documents remain in a locked box. Do you mean those?" "Precisely," Holmes said. "The Klan wants them destroyed, or perhaps hidden evidence retrieved. Your uncle defied them and died. Your father ignored them and died. You must not make the same mistake." Holmes stood and paced, his voice cutting through the storm. "Here is my advice. Take those papers at once, not tomorrow, not later, but tonight. Place them on the sundial exactly as instructed. Do not hesitate. That is your only chance." John nodded weakly, clutching his coat. Relief flickered in his eyes, though fear still held him. "I will do exactly as you say, Mr. Holmes. Thank you." With that, he left into the raging storm. I felt uneasy as the door closed behind him. "Holmes," I said, "do you really think he is safe?" Holmes's face was grave. "I fear we are too late, Watson. Too late." The next morning brought grim news. As I opened the newspaper, my heart sank. There it was in black print, John Openshaw, found drowned in the Thames, foul play suspected. I looked at Holmes. He stood by the window, pale with fury, but not surprise. "I warned him," he said quietly, "but fate had already marked him. We were one step behind the enemy." Then his voice hardened. "But they will not escape. Mark me, Watson, I will hunt them." He traced the letter postmarks, following the Klan's trail from Pondicherry to Dundee, then London. Finally, his search pointed to a ship, the Lone Star, bound for Savannah, Georgia. Holmes's eyes blazed. The very name of that state, Texas, reeks of the old Confederacy. "It is them, Watson. Our murderers sail even now." He sent a telegram to the American police, naming the men and the crime. But fate, as ever, had its own hand. Weeks later, we read the news. The Lone Star lost at sea with all hands. No survivors. Holmes laid down the paper, his face grim. "Justice has been served, though not by man's hand. The guilty are beyond reach. claimed by the sea itself. He sat silent, staring into the fire. Outside, the storm had passed, but inside Baker Street, the shadow of the 5 orange pips still lingered heavy in the air.